Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the best show of the best shows, where we talk about everything from comic books to even social commentary. This is episode number
9
of For Canon's Sake. So whether you're a normie, a wannabe expert, or a tryhard, get in there. And now, for your host, Mr. Eric July.
First of all, I gotta apologize, right? I gotta start the damn show off apologizing to you all because I believe I said in the last show that I was gonna do better. I was going to do better. I was, gonna have more episodes coming out, but unfortunately, I didn't get the job done. So if you wanna call me whatever, fine. I get it. It's deserving because this is a late episode. This is a very late episode, but I've been busy and my schedule kind of got thrown off with the whole crapping of my camera. Now, I got to talk about that really quick. If you're listening to this and you're not knowledgeable on what happened, long story short, actually, I can't make this long story short. Let's start from the beginning. So, I was ordering this new camera through Dell, business account through Dell. I put the order in. And the reason why I'm going through Dell, by the way, is because through that account, I don't have to pay all of the money up front. I could sort of break it down in 3 months. No interest or anything. That, to me, was more preferable, considering that this was going to be a random drop I didn't budget for. I've discussed this before that I take my budgeting really serious. I don't try to be dipping in my savings or anything like that, or even other checking accounts that are dedicated for other things simply because something crapped out like that. So what happened was I put the order in and they said it was supposed to be Thursday of this past week. Well, never got a tracking number, and I thought that was weird. Never got a tracking number. Called Dell. Hey, where's the camera? Is it on the way? Oh, there's a glitch in our system. What? Glitch in the system? Yeah, the order wasn't actually placed. So I'm livid. But I'm like, fine. Order it now. We'll get it Friday, right? Yeah, you get it Friday. Put the order in. Friday, or more so Thursday comes. Hey, where's the tracking number? Again. Well, when you put the order in, it was available. That's what we had showing online. But when we were processing the order, it no longer was available. What? Are you kidding me? There's smoke coming through my ears. Smoke. Bros, smoke. So it never got, and they were like, wait a minute. It may not get here until like the 27th, I believe they said. 21st, 27th, something like that. So I have no material that I've dropped, and I could have done, I guess, my little desktop videos with my Logitech, or I could have grabbed the lady's old camera, though there were options. But it set me back because I was anticipating this camera being here, and then I was going to get caught up. So instead of going through them, I thought, you know what? They don't want my money, clearly. But I can get this camera like straight up, cash or whatever, if I went to, let's say, Best Buy to get the camera. Now, again, I'm not trying to drop this money. So I thought of a creative way to start this little sort of donation stream thing in which I was going to stream for 5 days straight. That's what happened. Stream for 5 days straight, and we were going to see if we can hit this amount. I set it at $1,400. And I said, if we hit it, we're going to hit it. That's fine. It is what it is. If we don't hit it, it's fine. But it was like, if we hit it for 2 weeks straight, I am going to drop a video. 2 videos a day for 14 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I start the first stream. Again, I'm trying to spread this out over 5 days. I start the first stream, and the damn thing gets funded. It gets funded within the first hour. Porter Stanley and Bill Stanley, those guys are huge donators of mine. donates $200 and $260. And then Chris Bacon backdoors drops $880. $880. So between that and all the other donations that we were getting, it was funded. And the reason why I set it up that way, because I was like, you know what? Let me give him my opportunity, because I make the material for you guys. You guys are the reasons I make the material. I'm not a photographer. I don't shoot videos outside of material that I actually create. So the content that you guys know and love, and that was the whole idea. I wanted to get out there to you guys, and you funded it. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience, and it did show how much you guys really mess with me, and I appreciate that a lot. But the thing about that, it kind of threw the scheduling off, and I'm sort of trying to get all that lined up, and the videos weren't coming as well as the podcasts weren't coming. So that's my explanation. I had to spend the first bit of the show giving a big shout out to Chris Bacon, Porter Stanley, Bill, and every person that donated in that stream. That stream was phenomenal. So now I have a high-end camera, a new one that I can actually use for my streaming as well. So if you've seen my videos, I got the best looking damn stream on YouTube, and it's not even close. So big shout out to all of you, man. You guys are crazy awesome. I do appreciate it. I love you all for that. But to get into the main topic of the day, I wanted to have a long form sort of video. Long form video, or podcast more so, audio, let's say, of me discussing something that I recently did a video on. And that was what I would do if I was in control of Marvel Comics. I get this question a lot. I've had a lot of donations that are centered around this question, and people asking, like, with super chats or just straight up donations saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I'm like, that's such a good question. It's such a great question. And it's a great question because when you consider the nature of my work and how I criticize a lot of things that Marvel does, it's one thing to complain, but what about a solution or as far as what you would do if you were in the position to do that? And I did the video. You can go check that out. But I wanted something long form because there's a lot that I didn't address. But I am going to recap some of what I talked about. Now, first and foremost, let's go through what I feel is an actual problem with Marvel Comics right now. And the main problem is the content itself. Now, it sounds a little generic, but I'll explain. But Marvel has a content problem. They have interesting characters. They have the legacy. They have the Marvel Cinematic Universe to sort of boost some of these characters. They have a lot of things going for them, but it's a content problem as far as what's taking place in the comics, the material that's being put out that people are purchasing every Wednesday at their local comic shop. That's the problem, is the content. So what would I do to fix it? If I were to somehow be brought in to be a shot caller, creative director, or something like that, even maybe an editor, but let's say I had like some legitimate control, which would never happen. But if Marvel wanted to hire me as a consultant, I'd be 100% up for it. And I'm dead ass serious about that. I'm dead serious. I know they never do that, but I'm dead serious. I'd do that. And I think I'd actually give them some meaningful advice because I speak from both sides of the table as a content creator and a consumer. So a person that's knowledgeable on it, and I also make material in this regard. So I'm not writing my own comic yet. We've talked about this before, that's going to be my next venture after I finish up this album and this free mixtape that I have for you guys. But I'm speaking from a place of knowledge. So in order to address this problem, and I had the control to do it, I'd start with the books themselves. Let's start there. Marvel has so many books, and if you're hearing thunder in the background, I apologize. It is raining and thundering very hard. But if it was up to me, and I had that control, I would start with the books, and I would eliminate about 3/4 of the books. I'm not going to go into all of them. We went on this on the stream before, and I was talking about, well, we actually went through the current Unlimited series that are taking place right now. And about 3/4 of them I said I'd get rid of. Straight up. I get rid of them. And the ultimatum that I would have, I don't care what we maybe had planned or where even the story was going. I'm saying we're wrapping this up within 2 months. So do what you got to do. We got to have this wrapped up. I'm gonna let the people that were writing finish the jobs that they. I mean, obviously the books would already be done by then for the most part, all the ones down the line. But whatever we needed to do to get it finished, even if it was supposed to stretch out over the course of the year, we need to get it wrapped up in 2 months. Now, I'm not just gonna eliminate them immediately like that. That I guess that would be preferable. But we're gonna have some sort of structure in the transitionary process. So we're getting rid of them, and then within 2 months, these books need to be ended. And there's a lot of them that I went through. A lot of the goofy characters, a lot of the side characters that are support characters at best, and really have no business having their own line right now. They don't have. They shouldn't have one. I talked about like Shuri and Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, which I believe is ending here soon. But there's so many other ones. And then all the goofy teams, like the current Champions team, is goofy as hell. They should be gotten rid of. Like, there's so many different teams that should be eliminated. And so many just different comics. And then once I did that, got rid of the obvious ones, I would go down through some of the more, even that have some characters that are obviously developed and they should have their own series, maybe, but the creative direction that they're going is a little off. Like, for example, Black Panther, the current Black Panther run, the intergalactic Wakanda. It's kind of weird, dude. But I get rid of those. So about 3/4 of I would only have a quarter of the comics that I know that would stay. And it would be the obvious ones, the ones that are decent, like the Amazing Spider-Man I would keep. But speaking of Spider-Man, and this kind of goes into my next bit, when I talk about this content, I want continuity, canon, legacy. I want all of that to be acknowledged and that to be prioritized with the company going forward. That's the important thing. I don't think people realize how much money it costs to keep up with, like, let's say, multiple characters that you have, even if it's just a handful of characters that you enjoy, but they're main characters, because Marvel is working them to the bone and they're appearing in 17 different damn comics like Spider-Man. It's confusing and it's expensive. I've discussed this. I've done videos on this and how there's too many damn Spider-Man. Too many versions of Spider-Man, number one. But even Peter Parker has too many lines right now. Even with the limited, and it's just so unnecessary. He got the limited series such as Life of Spider-Man and all that. But then he has Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man, and Symbiote Spider-Man. And then not to mention his team up, which I believe he's doing Ms. Marvel team up right now. Like, it's too much. There's no reason for all of those to exist. So I would consolidate, I would merge them. I would merge like Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man for right now. And I would get rid of Symbiote Spider-Man. Because what that is confusing. Symbiote Spider-Man, for those that don't know, takes place right after Secret Wars. Why is that story just not being told? But the timeline is jacked. Because of that, it's confusing. I get asked all the time about Spider-Man. Where do I start? I'm like, yeah, the obvious is go to Amazing Spider-Man, but that's not the only thing that's happening within the main universe. Those others that I mentioned happen too, and they're just intimidated. And if they didn't have somebody like me tell them, they'd be even more confused. You can imagine them going to the local comic book shop and seeing 20 damn Spider-Man comics. And then you got the other versions like Superior Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, and Silk showing up in New Agents of Atlas, and Spider-Woman showing up randomly in like Captain Marvel and stuff. Like, it's nuts, man. And it gets expensive. Say if they wanted to keep up with Spider-Man and then some of the other ones. Because they're showing up not only with the teams, they're showing up in their own headlining comics, and they have multiple headliners. Like, that has to stop. Specifically with Spider-Man. Spider-Man obviously has the worst. That's their workhorse. That's the most popular character that they have. So I understand the logic in it. But I think it's illogical in terms of the execution because that's not bringing in new fans. That's intimidating new fans. Telling all these different versions of Spider-Man. So continuity would be something that I would be focusing on. And even if we had to come up with a timeline, an official timeline, and I put that online so you know what's going on, like that's like a current timeline. Now maybe not the whole history though, that would need to be acknowledged. I'm saying like the current timeline, so you would understand what's going on. There's no conflicts. So at least initially, like maybe for the first couple of years, I want people to get in those habits. I wouldn't tell a story that wouldn't be acknowledged. Like all of that stuff would need to be happening at the same time. I'm being for real with you. Like all of these stories that are popping off will need to be happening in the same time. And sometimes they like to, hey, this happened before X-Men Disassembled or something like that. That popped up in, I believe, what was that? The Guardians of the Galaxy, the annual. And I believe Star-Lord was talking to Kitty, and they made sure they let you know, wait a minute, this happened before X-Men Disassembled. So don't be confused. But quite often cases, they don't do anything like that. It just doesn't make sense. So my thing is that we wouldn't be telling stories that conflict with other stories. It needs to make sense. Now that's a difficult thing to do, but with the fat trimmed, we're a little more cohesive. We're a little more tight knit. And this may not be a permanent thing, but I want to establish that foundation that this is something that matters and this needs to be the expectation. The events need to coincide with each other and the consequences need to be had. Characters, they make something happen, some event happens, that needs to matter. And with the fat trimmed, I can do that. But also with the fat trimmed, and perhaps the most important, going back to the content, the writers that we pick up. Because, you know, it's easy to, once you have so many comics like Marvel has, writing is an actual talent. And there's not many good writers, right? Good comic book writers. It's not as many as like people like to think. There's not that many good ones, right? So what you're doing when you're extending that, you're crossing, all right, you not that many good ones, maybe you get some average ones. After that, you get some mediocre ones. But then you start crossing into bad because there's just simply not enough writers to go around that know what they're doing. So now you have writers that have no business writing these comics, picking up some classic characters. So what I do, you know, obviously keep the ones that are writing the current lines right now that are worth a damn. But what I would do is before picking up new writers, and before we even did that, I would go through it with my team, and we get together and we decide what characters that we think the market is going to respond to, that needs their own series and stuff like that. So we'd have that list already ready. But before we start picking up writers, what would happen is that I would quiz, and this sounds childish, but I'm dead ass serious. I would quiz every single potential writer. I would quiz every single one. I would. On the character that they're trying to pick up. I simply would quiz them in person. And if they fail it, and it wouldn't be like anything crazy, but if they fail it, like obvious things that you should know if you're covering this character, you're going to have to get up out of my office. And you're not writing for Marvel. And it sounds childish, but I'm dead ass serious. And it's actually everything but. The thing I'm trying to establish is that I want people that have passion in these characters that understand the history of the character. And because when you do that, you could write a story that's fresh, that's new, but it operates within the context of the actual character's behavior. What we now have is some goofy stuff happening because writers are just trying to write new stories with the characters in them. If that makes sense. You see, I understand that you're an artist, and I'm not talking about the little artwork. I'm saying as an artist, a writer, I put writers in that, and when you create stories and stuff like that, it's an art. But when it comes to these characters, a lot of people get it confused, and they think that this is just their canvas to, tell whatever story they want. And that's not how this works in comic books. That's not how it works. You don't just get to tell whatever story you want. No, you have things that you have to operate within. Because this character you didn't create. You didn't create this character. This character has decades of history behind them. The best writers, and that's a talent, the best writers are able to take that, know that history, and write something that's still fresh, that's still new. But it still feels like the character. And because the fat isn't trimmed and there's just too much to go around, you're having a lot of writers that pick up nonsense. And with the rise of social media, that put forth their nonsense, that is. But with the rise of social media, everything's a show. Everybody wants to put their politics and the social agenda out there for everybody. And that's bleeding into the comics, obviously. And with me, again, it's about the character itself. You don't get to just inject your political or social bias into the character just because that's your viewpoint. You don't get to do that. That's, again, I talked about this before. It's like me taking a character that is known for obviously being a cop or working with the cop and then turning them into a full-blown ANCAP because I am an anarcho-capitalist or being part of the military or something like that. And I turn them into a full-blown ANCAP. Like, no. That's not what the character has been. Why would I do that? But that's sort of what you get. It's kind of how you got Gay Iceman. That's a subject for another story or for another podcast. But that fat has to get trimmed. These writers have to know what they're doing. And if they can't possibly write a story without their social or political bias, even though it doesn't fit within the context of that character, you got to get up out of there. And this is where the editors and so forth actually have to do their jobs. They have to do their damn jobs, man. They have to actually vet. They have to actually say, no, we're not putting this out. And it means hurting your feelings sometimes, maybe. And again, diversity hires aren't going to be a thing. I don't care who you know or what you know or how you look or anything like that. It's about writing good, legitimate stories. I don't care about all of that. You got to leave that at the door. Leave that social bias at the door, bro. I don't care about that. Maybe it'll help you if your social bias is that of what the character has historically been. That's another thing. But that's irrelevant in a sense because it doesn't matter. It's not about you. It's about the character. And if you had talent as a writer, you'd be able to do that. So we pick up these writers, decide, and then we go there. It's not going to be any alternative new, like these universes. And I don't think there's a need to do a full-blown reboot, if you will, though I know people would treat it as such. I just get rid of the folks that need to be got rid of, or the books that need to be got rid of. But we want to prioritize making things matter again in comics, making the events matter again, and having our consumers, be it loyal fan base or even new consumers, be able to keep up with the characters that they want to keep up with. And that's the weird thing about all of this. I think they do these social agendas that sort of leak out, certainly in recent comic books. I guess they think that that's how they're going to get new supporters, right? Or new consumers. That's not what it does. What it does is it insults the ones that have existed historically, but that's not the way to do it. I disagree with that. Just make it simplified. You have a popping Marvel universe, cinematic universe right now. So people are being able to be introduced to these characters and they want to know more about them. There's no reason why the comic shouldn't be growing. The content within it should be solid. People should be itching to write. I'm pretty sure they are. People are itching to write for Marvel, obviously. But you need the cream of the crop. So the continuity has to matter. If we got to put an official timeline up on our website, whatever we got to do to make this happen, it needs to matter. And that will be the main thing that I prioritized. this is why we're not doing alternative universes. Not yet. Again, this is stuff that I'm talking about right now was initially. Until the foundation is laid, there's only one universe that matters. That's the only one universe that we're talking about. And that's the main one. No more of this laziness where you think you can just take a character and because it doesn't make sense. We'll just give them a limited series, or in some cases an unlimited series that just happens to exist outside of the main timeline or the main universe, or the main realm. Like, come on, dog. That's not what we want. So until people, again, that foundation is laid, there's only one universe. You got to figure it out. I actually think that addressing these problems and trimming that fat, a lot of problems are going to really, correct themselves. I for real believe that. And not everything that we try when we get this new team of writers and we start building out these characters and we start putting out these books, not everything's going to catch on, but that's the point. Figure out what works, figure out what the market is responding to. And if they don't like something that we're doing, we go back to the drawing board. But we don't just try to force them down people's throats like Captain Marvel. We don't do that. We don't just try to reboot them over and over and over. We're getting back to high issue series. If it works, people like it, it's going to stay. And if it doesn't work, we got to put them on the shelf for a while, maybe turn them into a support character. Because maybe that's what they deserve to be. Maybe even kill them off. Who knows? But nonetheless, it's not going to reboot just because we want this to catch on. And it's not. And we get back to the high issue series. I want 200, 300, 400 issues. I want a person to be able to pick up the book, pick up this volume of whatever their favorite character is, pick it up and just go. Start for number 1 and just keep going. That's what I want. And DC sort of is going in that direction with some of the main characters. You see Batman, you see post-Rebirth. They're all at issue 70 right now, and I like that. And that's what we do sort of with Marvel. Well, that's where I would go. That's where I would start if we are going to try to get Marvel back on track. In an era, in a climate in which it shouldn't ever have gotten off the rails. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is popping. This is why it doesn't make sense that this is taking place and you have so many unsatisfied customers. You have all of this garbage being put out. It doesn't make sense. You have a popping universe. You have money at your disposal. You have people that obviously would die to write for you. But hey, you got your diversity hires, you got people with social agendas, you got people writing these goofy characters. And in live action, you got them tokenizing characters, but that's a little different. Yeah, you get some tokenized characters even recent decades in the comics. What you think Miles Morales is?
Yo, Eric, you nerd. Quit with the mumbo jumbo and talk about some new comics. What's on your pull list for the week?
Even though I just spent all this time talking about Spider-Man on the pull list, there are some Spider-Man comics. I'll start with Symbiote Spider-Man. It's a decent story, actually. Again, it just shouldn't be told right now. But you have Symbiote Spider-Man. Black Cat has shown up. There's a lot of craziness happening with that new suit of his. So check that out. Spider-Man Life Story 4 drops. Invaders issue number 6. That's getting really intense, man. Like really, 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 really intense. It's war essentially about to take place. All these people have been turned into people that can't breathe air anymore. I think a whole town did. They can only breathe underwater. Things are crazy. Check it out. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 7. Again, we have 2 Spider-Man comics coming out the same week that exist in the same universe. Punisher issue number 13. We have Venom issue number 15. And I love the Punisher run right now. Looks like Baron Zemo has ditched Bagalia. So things are getting nuts over there. We have the Amazing Spider-Man 23. We have Superman issue number 12. Again, no, so that's what, 4 Spider-Mans. Some of this stuff may have came out a week or so prior. I didn't check the release calendar. I just know I needed to get caught up on that. So we had the Amazing Spider-Man 23. If so, I cannot believe that 3 Spider-Man books within the same universe came out in the same week. Superman issue number 12. We have Batman and the Outsiders issue number 2. We got Catwoman issue 12. Detective Comics issue 1005. We got Flash and Wonder Woman issue number 72. We got Supergirl 31, Event Leviathan 1 as well. So that is what's on the pull list for the week.
That's going to do it for today's episode of For Canon's Sake with Eric July. Be sure to keep it locked for the best mix of comics and political commentary you'll ever hear. And I mean ever hear. To get caught up or to contact the show, be sure to visit forcanonsake.com.